what this opportunity to qualify for the Player Championship means to Caleb. And so a split consensus between social media and the conversations I've heard in the room.
Well, it's been a run unlike anything we've really ever seen. You know, Dylan Donegan last year at our Season 4 Invitational in Seattle, he was kind of in the thick of things as far as points were concerned. He just made it easy on himself by winning the Invitational. And then he took Steve Mann along with him, and Danny Jessup was the last one out. But for Caleb, coming into this weekend, points were not an option.
It looked like there was maybe a little bit of a window when he's in the top 8 with Joe that he could sneak in on points.
Yeah.
Unlikely.
For him to do it, he had to win this thing. And now he has the opportunity to do that, which is crazy to think about. Looks like Vidi going to take a mulligan here, and Caleb is keeping. Vidi going to be on the play here. Of course, we're getting number one overall seed, Caleb the 6th.
It's been a recurring theme for Caleb so far in his run through the elimination rounds, where I think he's been playing against slower, more powerful decks. And so there's a lot of pressure on his curve. And that's going to be the same story here. A lot riding on cards like Ward in the first tree and Snapping Gnarlid to give Caleb the kind of aggressive start he needs to force Vidi to tap out on his own turn, to force Vidi to take some risky lines of play. And that allows him to leverage his more expensive cards, his more powerful cards like Siege Rhino and Gideon.
Vidi going to take a look at 6 cards now. We'll see if he's happy with these. He said he'll keep. The Scry, top card to the bottom. We are underway here in the finals as a shambling vet will start things off for Wijaya. Caleb Scherer with Ward in the first tree. He's 1 for 1.
It's a good start.
Yes, it is.
I think he was 5 for 5 in the quarterfinals.
He sure was. Prairie streaming a passing of the turn. Scherer will draw.
I believe Vidi made a little bit of a face when he kept 6. The mulligan into a slow hand that contained the one main deck copy of Ugin. Not what you're hoping for. 6-card hand on the play.
Something to work towards.
We got it. We got to play it.
Yes, we do.
Just got to survive 6 more turns.
Plains is the land here off of the Flooded Strand. We'll see if Warden is going to grow into a 3-3 or if Caleb has a follow-up. Looks like Warden will go to level 1. It is a 3-3, and across comes Scherer. Down to 17 goes Wijaya. He'll draw a card. Dragonlord Ochitai the draw. Dig through time in hand. It's a Jason, a passing of the turn. Vidi without a 3rd land.
Still a bit of a ways away from Ugin.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the plan anymore. Here comes the Warden. Wijaya down to 14. Does Caleb have an answer for the Jace? He's got a Shambling Vent. He's got another Warden, so the answer appears to be no. Wijaya will get to untap with the powerful blue card.
But still a great start here for sure.
Yeah.
Not quite as good as having a non-curve play or removing the Jace, but this is a fine turn.
Scatter to the Winds is not what the doctor ordered. Wijaya does have access to a ultimate price in his hand, it appears.
Unfortunately for Wijaya, it's not even like his hand's that great if he draws out of it. He's got Dragonlord Ochitai and Ugin in hand. Very slow to bring to the table. A Painful Truths, which can help him draw out of the mana developments here, but that's a whole turn off and 3 points of damage.
And Painful Truths is the discard right away. Back to Caleb, we're gonna go. He'll draw a card. Siege Rhino the draw. Here come the attacks.
And now Vidi has to make the decision, do I ultimate price and leave down the shields and allow something to resolve, or do I hold up Scatter and take 4 on the jaw?
Looks like he's going to take 4 on the jaw.
Scherer's deck has so many great 4-mana plays here. Both Siege Rhino and Gideon would be very challenging to beat in this spot, that Vidi's going to take his lumps.
See what the follow-up is here now. Another Warden. That's a beautiful play there for Caleb. Kind of slides under a little bit. Now you're going to find the Scatter. Going to take care of that and simply pass the turn back.
If Vidi just needs to get that card out of his hand, he cannot afford to leave it up another turn.
Got to cast something. Pluto Delta's land number 4.
And I'm sure Vidi was hoping to get a much larger play that turn. Only being able to counter a Warden has to be a bit of a disappointment.
Pass that turn back. Scherer going to grow his other Warden. Time for him to untap. Take a draw. I believe the 4th Warden. Time for him to attack. Here come the Wardens. Looks like Jake's going to step in front of one of them. Wijaya with just a couple of cards in the graveyard. Pluto Delta will add another.
Pluto Delta gets him to card number 3. Ultimate Price gets him to card number 4. He can then loot with Jace.
That's card 5.
Jace flips over, doesn't take any damage, gets a free chump block for his trouble. But it does open the door for sure to resolve something large.
Potentially. It depends on what VD does find.
There is Slimgar Scorn in his deck.
Yep.
So he is drawing to a counterspell.
Now, how he taps his mana here is tough to say, because he could also work himself into another copy of Ultimate Price. And I think he's trying to figure out exactly how he wants to go about doing it. There is Price.
I think it's correct for Wijaya to prioritize the counterspell over the removal spell, because Scherer's 4-mana plays cannot be responded to with Ultimate Price. If it's Siege Rhino, that doesn't do anything, and Gideon doesn't do anything there. So I think you want to leave yourself drawing to Slimgar Scorn here, because that keeps Scherer off of his 4-mana plays.
Now he'll draw. Slumgar Scorn is huge draw there. Ugin predictably down. Jace is going to transform. A huge rip for Scherer. There's the 4th Warden. Will VD try to counter? The answer is yes.
Great sequencing here by Scherer. Could have just gone for broke and tried to resolve something big. Tested the waters with a Warden, which is probably good enough to warrant a counterspell here. Doors open for him to resolve something big.
Well, unfortunately for him, the Smolder Marsh is going to enter the battlefield tapped because he only has 1 basic. So couldn't resolve a Gideon there. And so all he can do is just pass the turn back over to Wijaya.
But at least he traded the Slumgar Scorn for a Warden as opposed to one of his large plays.
Yeah.
He's trying to leave the Siege Rhino, the Gideons back, try to wear out Wijaya's defenses with less powerful cards and get to resolve his more powerful stuff.
We'll see what comes next. Jace gonna go down to 2. Ultimate Price gonna take care of the Warden. They're all dead now. Wijaya will just pass the turn back with 2 mana available. Back to Caleb Scherer, we're gonna go. Obzon Charm the draw. Perhaps it's time to go to a Rhino.
Well, the longer that Scherer waits here, the more that cards like Dig Through Time and Dragon Lord Ojutai can take over the game. So I like the patience he's displayed thus far, but I think there's a window here for him to resolve something larger.
Shambling Vent is the plan. He wants to go after Jace. How do we feel about this?
I mean, if you really respect the possibility of another Slumgar Scorn that much, that's totally fine. The problem is now it opens up a window for VD to resolve Dig Through Time, because that's card number 6 in the graveyard.
So in a roundabout way, Caleb actually turned this card on. Now VD gets to take a look at the top 7 and take 2 with him.
It's going to be really hard to play around Slumgar Scorn here. Another problem is you don't really want to wait to start resolving your threats after Dragon Lord Ojutai has hit the battlefield. I know there's a philosophy here that says wait for your opponent to tap out in their own main phase and then start casting your big stuff. The issue here is that when Wijaya has Dragon Lord Ojutai in play, it's possible that between Wijaya's draw step and whatever he finds off of Dragon Lord Ojutai return, he can answer whatever Scherer's responses are. So when your opponent's tapping out for a card drawer, that's great. That's a great opportunity to resolve stuff. When you're trying to get out in front of Dragon Lord Ojutai, you might have to play a little bit riskier.
Wijaya has found 2 cards that he's happy with. He'll draw a card. It's a copy of Utter End. And now things are getting very hard. You know he's going to cast Dragon Lord Ojutai this turn. pass the turn back over to Caleb. The draw here for Caleb was a copy of Murderous Cut.
Murderous Cut is a great draw here for sure because it allows him to cast Siege Rhino and also be able to interact with Dragonlord Ojutai in the event that Wijaya attacks. The creature removal isn't always at its best game one, but this is a great time for Murderous Cut.
You can see Wijaya's hand right now. He does have a Slumgar Scorn, also a copy of Utter End. He'll take a draw step here. Picked up another copy of Scorn. Here comes Dragonlord Ojutai. I think you got to try to cut now.
Oh, for sure.
Here's an attempt. Now keep in mind, as you see, Wijaya's mana, 3 blue. Doesn't have 4, so double Scorn, at least for right now, off the table.
On top of that, he probably has to Utter End the Rhino this turn. So if he counters back, he's committed to taking an untapped land or a removal spell off of this. Now, if he finds Foul Tongue Invocation, that's the best case scenario. If he misses on that card, he probably has to just take a 4th land to cast Utter End.
Dig Through Time Island. Hey, what's that last one?
I believe that is a Foul Tongue Invocation.
That is a Foul Tongue Invocation. Now, does he want to take that one here? It seems hard to pass it up. Take care of the Rhino and go up to 10? He's going to consult the grip. Again, Utter End, Painful Truths in hand. Also a copy of Slumgar Scorn. But we have seen this type of gameplay from Esper Dragons before. Once you get Dragonlord Ojutai down to your attacking, it's protect the dragon. Which
is why I thought it was important for sure to try to resolve some stuff, especially the turn where he took down Jace in lieu of casting one of his big threats. Because once the game gets like this, even if Scherer resolves his stuff, there's no guarantee that's going to be good enough.
Now, for example, he can Abzan Charm here to get Dragonlord Ojutai off the battlefield. I think it's important that he does. But I don't feel like Caleb is ahead at this point. I feel like he's now trying to catch back up.
And that was his whole turn.
Yep. Foul Tongue Invocation the draw here for Vidi. Might be time to cast a Painful Truths.
And now with that 4 life he got off the Foul Tongue Invocation, now he's got a safer cushion with which to resolve Painful Truths, gas back up.
Here is Painful Truths. Down to 7, 3 cards on the way. Couple of lands along with Ultimate Price. Not so bad. One thing to note, however, not a dragon.
And with no dragon, that Slumgar Scorn's a lot worse, as is the Foul Tongue Invocation. Vidi also, right now, very vulnerable to Gideon.
Yes.
Not a card he can answer cleanly.
How will Caleb play this turn? He will go to the ally of Zendikar. And it appears as though that is going to resolve. Vidi taking a long look at the grip, trying to show some strength here.
Remember, Vidi can Utter End this Gideon, but that's at least most of his turn, if not all of his turn, next turn.
A Knight Ally. On the way here for Caleb. And that's going to be his entire turn. I take it back. Wooded Foothills was the draw for the turn. That's actually a big one. That's going to let him play a card like Snapping Gnarlid or Den Protector here.
And if I would be surprised if he was willing to play Den Protector face up here, just because this game feels like it's going to be going on for a long time. Snapping Gnarlid I'm fine with. If you trade this with a Slumgar Scorn, you're not that upset about it. And if it happens to resolve, that's great too.
I'm actually pretty happy if I trade this with Slumgar Scorn, honestly. Because the power level on Slumgar Scorn can be so high at times.
Right. I mean, it's just 2 mana Force Spike right now, but it can easily be better than that if Vidi draws the right card.
Slumgar Scorn is going to counter the Snapping Gnarlid. If I'm Caleb, I'm not thrilled, but I'm not unhappy either.
Right, he knew going in that that was a possibility, and it was a risk he was willing to accept, as opposed to earlier turns where he made a lot of effort to play around Slumgar Scorn, turning it for a Snapping Gnarlid on turn 7 or so. Caleb's willing to run that risk.
Flooded Strand was the draw there for Wijaya. You see the Utter End, the Ultimate Price, and the grip. He's got an answer to Gideon. It's an expensive one, however. One thing to keep in mind as we work our way kind of deep into the mid game, almost in the late game here, a classic resource that Esper Dragons has access to is Ugin.
Yep.
That's in the graveyard right now for Vidi. Now, he does have Haven of the Spirit Dragon to get it back in his deck list, but right now it's in the graveyard. There's Utter End. And it actually might just be, I'm pretty sure it's just exiled, honestly, because of the dig through time.
Yep.
Yeah, so Ugin is just long gone.
He had exactly 6 cards in his graveyard when he cast the dig through time.
Land here for Caleb. It's a Wooded Foothills. Sacrifice that. Gonna fall down to 11. We'll see what land he wants to dig out of the deck. I believe his last card in hand is Abzan Charm.
I would imagine that Scherer wants to gas up here, try to find 2 cards. Even if he fails to find something powerful to do, he at least has the mana left over to activate a Shambling Vent and attack.
See a little bit of a reorganization of mana here. And here's an attack. Ultimate price gonna go there. Shambling Vent gonna come across for 2. Wijaya down to 5, Scherer up to 13. Do you want to gas up on the main phase?
Yes.
He's going to pass the turn back.
I mean, that's Scherer's last card.
Well, Dragonlord Ojutai was the draw here for Vidianto Wijaya. He's going to cast that with Foul Tongue Invocation at the ready.
And now Scherer can't really attack. And he can't really cast the Abzan Charm because he needs to hope to be able to kill Dragonlord Ojutai with it.
Looks like another Abzan Charm was the draw.
Ideal draw. That way you can at least win the fight over Dragonlord Ojutai. Even if Wijaya has a counter spell and he fails to counter, you again can draw 2 cards.
Flooded Strand the draw here for Vidi. Attack step. Charm it. That'll work.
I think Wijaya has to go for an attack there. Scherer's hand could be empty. And on top of that, Abzan Charm's got other modes. It's not like that's the only thing in the matchup it can do.
This may have been the big draw. It looks like Shambling Vent's going to come across, however.
With Foul Tongue Invocation in hand, this is an easy block for Wijaya because Scherer needs to have some sort of trick to justify this attack, and you might be able to get the Shambling Vent and the trick for the Foul Tongue Invocation.
I've been surprised not to see Caleb cash in the Abzan Charm to get cards. He hasn't done it yet. I believe the draw for the turn was Dromoka's Command. Dromoka's Command doesn't play a huge role in this matchup, and it looks like it's not going to work here either. There's Foul Tongue. So Caleb will lose the vent.
Pretty gutsy attack there from Scherer, especially at the cost of casting his Abzan Charm this turn. And now the coast is clear for Wijaya to activate his own Shambling Vent and start attacking, get a little bit of a cushion.
And that's exactly what you're going to see him do. Fire 1 up. It looks like he's going to fire 2 up. And it's going to bring him to 9. It's going to tie it up.
And getting this hit in gives Wijaya a bit of a cushion. Also drops Scherer's life total down a little bit, making the cost of Abzan Charming for 2 cards a lot higher.
Wijaya going to go up to 8. Scherer down to 9. Caleb will draw. Picked up a copy of Wooded Foothills. He'll start by playing one of these, it appears. Now he'll cast Abzan Charm for cards. Down to 7 he'll go. Shambling Vent. Windswept Heath. Those aren't of much help. He'll sacrifice the Heath. Go down to 6. And the one thing that thing can't search for is black mana. So Canopy Vista it is. And it looks like he's going to fire up his Shambling Vent, go down to 5, back up to 7. curious how much work this attack gets done, however.
Yeah, I think he's better served holding back on defense.
Yeah. He'll pass back over to Wijaya. Vidi with the Flooded Strand. Come across yet again. Play an island, simply pass the turn back. Because Caleb's not making any inroads on the life total.
Right, and he takes an extra 2 points on the way back doing it that way.
Yeah. Shambling Vent the land here. I suppose the Fear is a removal spell.
I don't think Scherer is being a removal spell regardless.
I don't think he is either. Pass the turn back. Wijaya, another land in Bloodstained Mire. Same play. Scherer down to 2. Wijaya up to 12. Caleb will draw. He's found a copy of Siege Rhino.
That's a huge one.
I'm inclined to agree.
And now the players are at Shambling Vent parity as well. Meaning Vidi's no longer ahead just by sending in his 2 Shambling Vents against Scherer's 1. Wijaya has at least built up a bit of a cushion in terms of life with these Shambling Vent hits.
He's going to fall down to 9, however. Scherer going to go up to 5.
Now I like the idea of a Shambling Vent attack.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Got a Rhino back on defense, and a removal spell is bad for you regardless, so you might as well get a little aggressive.
7-all as we head back Wijaya's way. A lot of draw steps that are great here for Vidi. Jace isn't bad. Not the most powerful thing he could have found. Something like Dig Through Time's a lot better here, but no slouch as usual. Scherer going to untap. He'll take a draw step here. Picked up a copy of Windswept Heap to go along with the Wooded Foothills. Looks like he's going to animate a Shambling Vent.
I'm not a huge fan of animating the Shambling Vents and attacking this turn. The problem is that Wijaya gets an easy block, either double blocking one of the Shambling Vents or just bouncing off of each other. It's just a very easy way for Wijaya to gain some life and make inroads on the board if he so chooses. The Siege Rhino is a safe attack. Yeah. That's fine to attack with, but anything else.
The reason I don't like this attack, for the reasons you mentioned, of course, but also a card like Dromoka's Command or something like that, it's going to be good no matter what.
Right.
You know, like because of the Siege Rhino. And at this stage, you know, Abzan Charm is going to be good. Removal spells are going to be good, so it's not really going to change the equation here for Vidi as far as what he's going to do.
Exactly. You know, Dromoka's Command here is not really worth playing around because Vidi's also in trouble just on Dromoka's Command, have the Rhino fight the Jace, and you're on empty again. Yeah. So he's going to make a risky block here.
Yeah, he's going to double block there a very high percentage of the time.
Right, just because the downside, the cards that make that bad block for Vidi are bad for him for other reasons. So there's no reason not to. Even if he knew about Dromoka's Command, he still might double block because Dromoka's Command trading off with the Shambling Vents is better for Vidi than it killing the Jace.
Now Jace is going to go active. It's going to transform into the Vryn's Prodigy. And now things are going to get pretty bad for Caleb. He found a copy of Haven of the Spirit Dragon. This is going to start on 5, going to go down to 2. Vidi, I believe, is going to be recasting Dig Through Time. Going to take a look at the top 7 and take 2 with them. And it's going to take some kind of miss here. So let's see what Wijaya is able to find. A card like Dragonlord Salumgar, which he did just find, is phenomenal right now. Foulting Invocation, Salumgar's Scorn, another copy of Dig Through Time. A lot of great options.
And you can be pretty confident that Scherer doesn't have a creature removal spell in his hand because you would have seen it last turn.
That Jace would be dead if he did. There's Haven of the Spirit Dragon. Here's Dragonlord Slumgar. I'll take the Rhino with me, and that is going to do it for this game. Vidianto Wijaya is going to win game number 1 here over Caleb Scherer. Esper Dragons up a game here over Abzan Aggro.
And that was the real important one for Vidi to get, because as I talked about before, sideboard improves things quite a bit for Caleb. I think he catches up more than Vidi gains more ground.
to the sideboards is where we're going to go here for both players. We're going to start with Caleb. You talked about him picking up some ground here. I think it's got a lot to do with these 4 copies of Pitiless Horde and 3 Duress. He's also got 2 Painful Truce, 2 Self-Inflicted Wound, 2 Planner Outburst, and 2 Rising Miasma.
I see 11 cards that are well suited for this. The Pitiless Horde, the Duresses, the Painful Truths, and I think Self-Inflicted Wound is a fine card to bring in just as an answer to Dragonlord Ojutai because that card is so good against Caleb.
Other side of things. 2 Arashan Clerics, 3 Monastery Mentors, 2 Negate and Ultimate Price, 2 Tasker, 2 Duress, a Languish, which is great against Obs on aggro, and 2 Self-Inflicted Wound.
The Languish is great here. The 2 copies of Self-Inflicted Wound. I believe VD brought in Tasker in this matchup early on in the tournament, just assuming that Caleb has to cut a lot of his creature removal and that it's a fine blocker and another way to win a long game. I also think that the 2 copies of Negate want to come in here, as a lot of Caleb's best sideboard cards are spells. It's also an answer to Gideon, which can be a problematic card for Wijaya.
Well, game number 2 going to be underway here as these players do sideboard and get ready for the tough part of things, which are the sideboarded games, but both players with some healthy options that they can bring in. We'll talk about SCG Game Night for the final time here this week, and it's the very popular promotion with Star City Games. We do appreciate you guys playing in it, and every week you can get the rainier in December and some cool stuff in January and February.
StarCityGames.com/Game Night for more information. Every month we come out with new pins and tokens that we send to the stores that sign up for Game Night. Stores that run Game Night can run it any day of the week, any format they want. Just get players in the store on a regular basis for some fun and friendly magic. This is the December kit what players are playing for right now, which is the Reindeer. We have the next 2 months announced, which is the Grizzly brand in January. And then in February comes Magus of the Moo. So StarCityGames.com/Game Night for more information. Contact your Star City Games in-store play representative today to get Game Night set up at your store. Canadian store owners, if you haven't brought Game Night to your store because of the cost of shipping the kits to Canada, we have changed the shipping rates to U.S. domestic. So if you want to get signed up for Game Night, again, StarCityGames.com/Game Night for more information. Contact your Star City Games in-store play representative.
Game number 2 about to be underway here between Vidianto Wijaya and Caleb Scherer. As per Dragons, Obs on aggro. Going to be interesting to see exactly what sideboard cards do come to play. We saw Pitiless Horde from Logan Mize last weekend in Denver. Didn't get to see him actually use it. And this feels like the matchup where you don't want to use that card. So I'm curious to see exactly how that card has an effect on the matchup.
It's just another very efficient heavy hitter for Caleb. It's got to be better than something like Anafenza in the matchup. I guess Ultimate Price may change that calculus a little bit, but it's more power to mana, and the dash can be a very potent thing against a deck that is packing main deck sorcery speed removal with more of it in the sideboard.
For VD, a lot of great options, and what you saw there was some of the power on display of Esper Dragons. You know, it can't be understated just how powerful a card Dragonlord Ojutai is in command with those Dragon Matters cards.
And that card really creates some issues for mid-range decks, because in an ideal world, you would just cut all of your creature removal, focus on the discard spells in your own creature. Dragonlord Ojutai is large enough that it can brick off a sea of creatures. There's often going to be spots where Caleb just won't be able to attack at all. And once Dragonlord Ojutai gets going, as we saw in that game, very hard for Caleb to catch up. So he has to leave in some amount of his creature removal. Now, Obs on Charm's free to leave in because you can always cycle it in the worst case scenario. But you do have to make some concessions to the removal spells you're leaving in your deck, when in an ideal world, you'd just be sending all of that to the sideboard, just focusing on discard spells and faster threats.
Well, we'll see how things do shake out here in game number 2. Remember, best of 5 here in the finals, as it has been throughout all the elimination rounds. VD getting in a pile shuffle just for you, though he is a fast pile shuffler, so I hope it doesn't bother you too much, as Caleb is ready to rock and roll here for game number 2. Remember, one of these players, the last one, number 16 into the Players' Championship. The rest of it has been decided. That'll be next week in December 19th and the 20th. At the Star City Game Center in Roanoke, Virginia. And what a tournament that's going to be. 16 competitors, $50,000 on the line. And I know we haven't seen Brad Nelson much on the Open Series here this year, but I'm looking forward to seeing him again and what he puts together as the defending champion.
He's been in the lab for a better part of a month now. The formats have been stable, no new content in quite a while, besides the Commander cards that were recently released for Legacy. So he's had a lot of time to brew. Skipped out on the Invitational this weekend, I would imagine. Take a weekend off, focus on the testing.
Yep. He'll be joined by players like Jacob Wilson, Jim Davis, Logan Mize, Ross Merriam, and many others. Could be one of Vidianto, Wijaya, and Caleb Scherer. Right now, Vidianto, Wijaya is currently up a game. Heck of a way to come back from a tough mulligan there.
Yep, mulliganed, missed on turn 2 with having a play. Had to play Jason, miss a land drop on 3. And Caleb had a bunch of wardens. Had a really good opening there, but Vidi played very tight there.
He's going to take a mulligan now, will Scherer.
I think there were some missteps from Scherer in that match. I think he played a little bit too passively.
I think so.
When the threat of Dragonlord Ojutaya was looming, I think that attack with Shambling Vent, it's just so likely that VD blocks there because all the cards that are bad for him are bad for him if he doesn't block.
It's just, VD, in my opinion, is blocking 100 times out of 100.
Right.
There, I think it's a double block 100% of the time. Assuming you're familiar with double blocking, I think he's double blocking 100% of the time.
These will become final in 2 minutes. If you have made the top 8, please bring us your deck if you have not already, and then gather.
VD going to keep his 7.
Board where my friend Ward Warren is standing to receive your prize.
Caleb going to take a look at 6.
Specifically, all other players can receive their prize tickets from the SCG folks on stage. Thanks again for coming.
We're underway. No warden of the first tree.
The first miss on camera.
Yeah. Caleb going to sacrifice that flooded channel. We'll see what land he wants to get. You saw Wijaya just start off with a copy of Shambling Vent. And there is Canopy Vista. Back over to Scherer, we're going to go. There's a warden. That's land number 2 in Shambling. Then pass the turn back over to Vidianto.
So he did have the warden. He just didn't have untapped green on turn 1.
A little late to the party. Back to Scherer. In comes the warden. Just one works. Sunken Hollow. Den Protector. Pass the turn back. Looking to get aggressive. Crux of Fate the draw.
Crux of Fate, a great draw in this matchup under any set of circumstances, especially with an opponent who just took a little sting out of their late game to try to get a presence on the board by playing a face-up Den Protector.
There goes Flooded Strand. And now there is an island. Third land is an island. And now there is Painful Truths, only for 2.
Well, Painful Truths on the draw means you're going to be discarding 2 cards if you haven't done anything for the first couple turns of the game. So no real reason to take the extra point of damage if he knows for sure he wants to get a second island, because it's only the difference between draw 3, discard 2, and draw 2, discard 1.
Jace is the discard, pass the turn back over to Scherer. This is a big turn here for Caleb. The window is open. Does he have something to do?
Well, VD's trying to rope him in a little bit too, because he has the Crux of Fate in hand. So I think VD's hoping, well, if he overextends here, if I can survive the next turn, then Crux cleans up everything and I can take over the game with the leftovers.
There's Siege Rhino. Wijaya will take the 3. We're going to head back over to VD. 22-10. Wijaya will take a draw.
You do not want your first play of the game to be Painful Truths.
No, you don't. Especially on the draw.
You want it around turn 6 when you're following it up with something. Turn 3 on the draw, facing some pressure.
Not so much.
Not as much, no.
It's just a 4th land in Prairie Stream, and now we head back over to Scherer. Scherer does have a copy of Abzan Charm in hand. I like firing Shambling Vent up a lot here. I don't really have much interest in casting a spell. If you're worried about Crux of Fate, I don't have much interest in working my way into that situation. And now here come the beatdowns. Odoran's going to take care of the Rhino. 5 damage going to come across.
Modern classic competitor Reginald Kimmich, please report to your scorekeeper.
There's another shambling vent, pass turnover.
Modern
Wijaya gonna quickly untap, take a draw here.
Kimmich, please report to your scorekeeper.
Flooded Strand. He'll play a Sunken Isle. There's Crux of Fate. And now if Caleb has a copy of Pitiless Horde, as he untaps very quickly, and it looks like he does, he'll dash Pitiless Horde. And that'll get the job done right there. Caleb Scherer's going to win game number 2 very quickly here over Vidianto Wijaya. Obs on aggro. And Esper Dragons going to game number 3.
Caleb definitely got paid up for the face-up Den Protector.
Yep.
And Vidi died with 5 or 6 very powerful spells in his hand. But just, you know, more emphasis, we've been saying it throughout the entire top 8, that in these matchups where Caleb is the less powerful deck of the two, which he's been all 3 times, it's important for him to be aggressive, even if that means giving up a little bit of late game with plays like face-up Den Protector on 2.
It's just situations where you just have to get to the board. You just have to get to the board as fast as you can. As you said, Den Protector on 2 face-ups, not the sexiest play in the world. You're going to want to do that for a long game like we saw in game number 1, but get to the board, put pressure on, and then Pitiless Horde. 5 damage is a lot for cleanup duty.
Yeah, especially when Vidi's plan in the matchup involves Languish and Crux of Fate stabilizing the game. Even playing something like Dragonlord Ojutai to block for a turn. 5 power and haste is great in all of those set of circumstances.
Well, game number 3 going to be underway here in just a moment as we are all tied up. So let's talk about that schedule here for season 1 of the Open Series one last time. It starts here in Las Vegas. Now, do remember the points for an invitational, that'll count towards season 4, as well as season 1 for 2016. We've also got that Open that's taking place right now where players like Steve Rubin, Danny Jessup, and Brian Braun-Duner are in the top 8. Then the Players' Championship will take a little bit of time off given the holidays and then fire it up again in Cincinnati.
Yeah, we got Modern back-to-back in Cincinnati and Charlotte to open up the year, and then Standard back-to-back in Atlanta and Columbus. After that, the Regional Championships February 6th, which will be Modern. Go.starcitygames.com/regionals for more information about that event. A Modern Open Series event in Louisville, then Legacy in Philadelphia. After Philadelphia, we head to Indianapolis for Standard, then Standard in Baltimore, and the Season 1 Invitational in Columbus, Ohio, April 15th through the 17th, Standard and Modern as the invitational formats.
And of course, for anyone who does enter into an Open, kitchen links in the house, get one of these fantastic playmats.
Making a mess.
You get way too excited about this, but I know you're going to have a couple of these.
I will. Well, actually, I don't know if I will. Because getting the playmats from Star City Games, if you're a commentator and not a player in the event,
here we go.
Kind of like pulling teeth. But I'm going to do what I can to either ask the right people or steal a package of it off the pallet when they're loading up. StarCityGames.com.
Yeah, there you go.
More information about the Season 1 schedule.
I'm going to make sure that you don't get one.
They had to put so much stuff on the truck.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a small task loading things up. There's going to be a window for me. And I got sticky fingers.
And apparently, we have a very large truck, Pat.
And they being Star City Games, should use we, but we're in an adversarial spot right now.
Oh,
so
yes, yeah, we're fighting.
They could make it very easy. You can just give me one of the playmats, you know what I mean? I would play in an Open Series event, but I can't because I'm commentating at all of them. So this doesn't seem like a big ask. And yet here we are.
Yeah. I'm going to make sure you don't get one. That's not my new life goal.
Yeah.
You've got your stamp of approval.
That's how you're going to spend your political capital, is just making sure that I don't get a playmat. Well, that seems petty, even by your standards.
And what are my standards exactly? That implies I have those.
Petty enough to threaten me to not get a playmat.
It's a Prairie Stream on turn 1 for Vidianto. A Forest, no Ward of the first tree here for Caleb. Jace here on turn number 2. A Windswept Heath here for Caleb. He'll fall down to 19. And there's a plane that does make you wonder if he did keep it a card like Silk Wrap. Doesn't have very many targets, we know that.
I think Silk Wrap is probably below the bar. It's just too bad in every situation that doesn't involve Jace. I like the Abzan Charms and Murderous Cuts as removal spells. And Murderous Cut happens to get Jace, but they have utility in other ways. Silk Wrap is very narrow.
Snapping Gnarlid is the turn 2 play there for Caleb.
I think the really narrow removal in Silk Wrap and Dromoka's Command has to go. But the flexible ones like Murderous Cut and Abzan Charm, those can stay in.
Things just got pretty hard here for Vidianto. I do not believe he has a third land.
He got out of the spot in game 1, though.
Yes. There goes Jace. Past that turn back. Caleb's got to be thrilled. He'll untap and draw. Gideon was the draw. There's a Smoldering Marsh. Trigger the Snapping Gnarlid. Come across here for 3. Vidianto's going to fall down to 17. Is there a follow-up? Yes, there is. And then offensive the foremost.
A bit surprised to see this in the deck post-board, just because I assumed with Pitiless Horde coming in, there'd be too much competition at 3, and Anafenz's text box isn't relevant, but 4 4s for 3 are still 4 4s for 3.
Vidi has missed again. Dig through time the discard. Back over to Caleb, we're going to go. He can close this one out pretty quickly. This is something that Abzan does such a great job of closing out games. There is a fetch land in Wooded Foothills. That'll trigger the Gnarlid. Now the Anafenza trigger. Let's trigger the Gnarlid again.
And Slumgar scored mana not at the ready here for Wijaya.
So this is a pretty healthy attack here of 9. The follow-up here, I believe, is Gideon. It's actually going to be a copy of Siege Rhino. Either 4-drop's good.
Well, this protects Caleb from the scenario where Wijaya has a negate in hand, which is a
Very
sideboard
true.
card. So there's no risk here playing the Rhino, and Gideon could allow Wijaya to basically get back in the game if he hits some lands and can chain together some Foul Tongue Invocations.
Shambling Vent the draw there for Vidi. He needs a land that's going to enter the battlefield untapped. And I'm not sure he can afford to activate Jace to try to find one.
Well, if he's on blocking detail, that means he's on chump blocking detail. There's none of this loot and flip Jace going on right now.
He's got Tassiger in hand, Dragonlord Ojutai, all the goods, of course, but when you have no lands, what else could your hand be?
It's tough because even if Wijaya finds land number 3 for Foul Tongue Invocation, even with a dragon in hand, there's still 9 points coming across the table next turn, easy.
Pluto Delta is the land that he's found. And even that one, even though it is an untapped land, that one costs a life.
Yeah. Foul Tongue Invocation game 4, I think, is the best thing Vidi can do in a spot like this. And Scherer can sacrifice Snapping Gnarlid, attack with Anafenza and Siege Rhino, put an Anafenza counter on the Siege Rhino, and that's 9.
Utter End is the discard. Delta's the land, past the turn back. Scherer will draw.
I suppose the hope here is you can, if Scherer doesn't have a land, you can hope that he puts the Anafenza counter on the Snapping Gnarlid. Even then, it seems impossible.
Caleb just deciding where to put that counter now from Anafenza. Looks like he might be going towards Snapping Gnarlid.
Yeah, to cast the Foul Tongue Invocation, Vidi has to go to 4.
Yep.
Everything in play is 4. So he goes to 8, and then 2 4s kill him. There's no way to stop it.
Caleb Scherer going to win game number 3 here over Vidianto Wijaya. Abzan aggro, up 2 games to 1 here over Esper Dragons. And for Caleb Scherer, it's 1 more game to go, and he's got 2 chances to do it.
Sideboard cards do seem impactful. That game was kind of on the house there. But we saw there in game number 2 how much Pitiless Horde mattered. And Scherer starts here with some early aggression in game 1. Vidi gets to Crux of Fate in time, likely to be good enough. Scherer has a lot more haste in the deck post-board, and he's got Duresses to attack Wijaya's hand.
Game number 4 about to be underway, but do keep in mind, as we talked about that schedule for 2016, our first event will be the 2nd and the 3rd of the year in Cincinnati. And for those of you who don't know about the details about that, what we've changed here with the SCG Tour, we'll let you guys find out more about our stop in Cincinnati right now.
Join us on the SCG Tour January 2nd through the 3rd for the Cincinnati Open weekend. On Saturday, play in the Modern Open main event. Every competitor gets a playmat featuring kitchen links, plus our latest Invitational Winners token, just for playing. The top 8 finishers earn a spot in an upcoming Invitational and get 1 step closer to the Players' Championship. On Sunday, it's your format, your tournament, as you choose between Standard and Legacy Classics. All participants get an Invitational Winners token, and the top 4 competitors in each Classic qualify for an Invitational. There's plenty more to do in Cincinnati. All weekend, play in side events and earn tickets to spend at the SCG Prize Wall. Between rounds, meet the weekend's special guests, artist RK Post and Aaron Miller. And don't forget to tune into SCG Live as Cedric Phillips, Craig Krempels, and Nick Miller bring you coverage all weekend long. The Cincinnati Open weekend is January 2nd through the 3rd. Step into the spotlight.
Well, those are the details for our stop in Cincinnati, January 2nd and the 3rd. Little modern action there. I'll be joined by someone you know pretty well in Craig Krempels.
One of a long line of the past future of American Magic. 9th place Pro Tour Yokohama. Intentionally drew himself, thought he was in top 8, drew himself into 9th.
Oh, goodness.
National champion, back at one of the last large purse national championships.
Yep.
2 Grand Prix top 8s.
Yep. I met him in Columbus 2004 when I top 8 the Grand Prix. I played against him in the top 4. He humiliated me.
Yep.
Promise of Power with, is it Entwine in that set?
Yes.
Yeah. A good card. Good card. I was a young 18-year-old man who I had no idea what I was getting myself into with Craig Krempels. We'll be joined by Nick Miller, of course. Modern Action, January 2nd and the 3rd. Right now, we are here in Las Vegas. Shambling events for both players to start. Prairie Stream here for Vidianto. He'll pass the turn back.
With the exception of Game 2, so far, VD's had some real clunkers.
Yes.
He's missed land drops. His lands have not been coming to play smoothly.
Painful Truths the draw. Does he miss 3rd land again?
Yeah, this looks like a repeat.
There's Haven of the Spirit Dragon. Okay.
Pardon.
Painful Truths will only draw 2. That's better than nothing. He's just going to pass a turn back, Foul-Tongue Invocation at the ready. Okay.
Dragon in hand, gives himself a bit of a buffer. And again, you'd rather cast your spells first and then gas up with Painful Truths than do it the other way around.
Smoldering Marsh. Snapping Gnarlet, pass a turn back.
Very important for Caleb to have a follow-up play there. If he misses and VD has an opportunity to cast Painful Truths or Jace in the clear, Caleb might have already fallen too far behind. Haven of the Spirit Dragon Painful Truths in the same deck makes me want to cry.
Combo!
I understand that there's only the one Haven and all this. This is not the first time today I've watched this play. I was walking around the room. Just not how you build a deck.
2 cards drawn, no lands found. It's a Canopy Vista in for 3. What's the follow-up here for Scherer, assuming he has one? And Offense of the Foremost, pass the turn back.
And you could tell by VD's body language there how much was riding on that draw step. If he misses another land drop and
probably
Scher's got any sort of hand, he might have fallen too far behind. Classic colorless lands converge strategy.
Classic.
Just classic.
Yeah, just classic.
A Sunburst Darksteel Citadel strategy.
Infamous.
Yep.
Looks like it might be time for Jace, and it is.
So I believe this line of play allows VD to cast the Jace and Murderous Cut this turn, because Blue to Delta gets to be the 3rd card in the graveyard, mana 4 and 5.
No attackers just yet, Caleb. See what land VD wants to search up here. Looks like it's probably just going to be it doesn't have to be Basic Swamp. It can be an island.
Feels like there's a lot more pressure on his deck for blue mana than black mana, but he does have double black sweepers in Languish and Crux of Fate, so it's not simple.
Of note, Caleb did not play a land before going to the attack step, so it looks like he doesn't have another land in hand. And Offensive down from the Murderous Cut. Here's an attack for 2. Wijaya going to fall down to 16. No blocks with the Jace there. Is it Gideon time?
Great window for Gideon.
And there it is.
Shields are down in the gate. I don't even know if they're in VD's deck post-board, but in any case, the shields are down.
Ultimate Price the draw.
And you see no Utter End in Wijaya's hand.
At least not yet. Let's see if Jace can find one. Nope. Self-inflicted wound.
And VD's hand is a mess.
Yeah.
It is no answer to Gideon, a bunch of spot removal spells, and a bunch of dragons missing land drops. Given the circumstance, I mean, if you replace a self-inflicted wound with, like, the Ugin, this is about as bad as VD's hand can look right now.
It's not pretty. There is self-inflicted wound. Looks like Knight ally down. And now VD can pass the turn with ultimate price at the ready, but he's still not feeling good about things. Scherer, he'll draw. Painful Truths in hand. Picked up a copy of Murderous Cut. Left some number of those in because of the Dragon Lords in the deck. In a roundabout way, almost forced to.
I really like a plus with Gideon, because the biggest thing to concern yourself here is with Dragon Lord Ojutai, in my opinion. If you plus an attack, even if VD goes land number 5, Dragon Lord Ojutai, you plus an attack again, it's hard for VD to block, obviously. It doesn't really get him anywhere. Then your Gideon's at 6 loyalty. Then Dragon Lord Ojutai can't even crack back on the Gideon. Also, I think just attacking for 5 here might be better than having the 2/2 in play. But even setting that aside, having a path to get Gideon to 6 loyalty seems very important to me.
There's ultimate price. Gideon going to come across for 5. Wijaya going to fall down to 11. The follow-up here for Caleb is a copy of Murderous Cut to get Jace off the battlefield. And now Warden. He'll pass the turn back. Big draw step here for VD. It's a Jace, not land number 5.
And you can see VD looking back and forth on his hand, thinking, my play this turn can't really be Jace.
Yeah.
But Foul Tongue Invocation doesn't get him anywhere. That's just a Warden down. I suppose he goes to 15, but that's a rough way to use the turn when you're getting cracked back for 5 and Caleb's got a bunch of spells in his hand.
It might buy you enough time, but he's just going to pass the turn back for right now. And I like the play here of just passing the turn back and not playing Foul Tongue Invocation on the main phase, because, you know, maybe Caleb is afraid to activate the Gideon now. Who knows? Got to give yourself the best chance.
It might at least prevent Scherer from going with Pitiless Horde. If VD does it on the main phase, then Caleb can just dash Pitiless Horde, come across for 10, and then you're in all sorts of trouble.
Foul Tongue Invocation. Revealing Dragon Lord Ojutai. Gain 4 and then take 5. So going to fall down to 10 will Wijaya. And this is the kind of turn here where Caleb can afford to gas back up if he'd like.
I actually think I prefer just casting Pitiless Horde.
Yeah?
I'm not looking to take the foot off the pedal right now with Wijaya on the ropes. If you cast Painful Truths, don't find anything good to do this turn, and Wijaya draws to Utter End, now he's back into it. I just want to keep putting on the pressure here.
Well, Scherer's found a couple of lands and an Abzan Charm. And the land is actually pretty important because this will allow him to play a copy of Snapping Gnarlid.
Yeah, if he already had the land sewn up and he knew for sure he'd be able to follow up with Snapping Gnarlid, I think this play is okay. But in this set of circumstances, I think I would have just cast Pitiless Horde.
Well, the 2/2 landfall creature is going to come onto the battlefield here. And now we go back over to Vidianto Wijaya. Is it land number 5? It is, but enters the battlefield tapped. There's Jason. He'll just pass the turn back. Caleb Scherer will draw. I believe another copy of Pitiless Horde. It's a Sunken Hollow, trigger landfall. Caleb deciding how he wants to tap his mana here. He will dash Pitiless Horde. That 5/3 with haste right now. A lot of trouble here for Wijaya.
Got put on the map last week in Denver Logan Myers had in the sideboard, and this card has really turned the matchup around post-board.
It's been a true nightmare as all these creatures are going to come into the red zone. Jace is going to have to block. And now Vidi's got to figure out, is there any way for me to get out of this? Dragonlord Ojutai doesn't even really save him here.
I don't think he's really drawing to anything. His hand's a dead end. If you cast Dragonlord Ojutai, he's dead. Foul Tongue Invocation doesn't get him anywhere. Utter End doesn't get him anywhere.
8 damage going to come across. The dash is done. Pitiless Horde back in the grip. Wijaya going to draw. And that's even a land there in Sunken Hollow that will enter the battlefield tapped, as there's only one basic out there. Dragonlord Silumgar could have potentially done something to save him here, and that is going to do it. Caleb Scherer, from a 3-3 start, decided, I'm not losing anymore this weekend. He has done it. He has won this match here over Vidianto Wijaya, 3-1. He's headed to the Players' Championship. He's your Season 4 Invitational Champion here in Las Vegas. Congratulations to him.